Hi everyone, this is an overview video of DataViews, a portfolio tool where you can access all of your data. It's located here in the left-hand navigation bar under Portfolio, DataViews. When I expand it, I can see the existing DataViews queries I've saved. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and create a new one, which I can do here in the left-hand navigation bar with the Create New button, and there's also an Add New here within DataViews queries. I can see my existing DataViews queries here as well in the tabs. So you can see here I have my sites and all of the data within them. So I recommend doing DataViews queries one item at a time. So you can see we start at the top with the high-level data of the site details, the gateway appliance details. This gets into my devices, which also have the sensors under them. I can do the alerts that are visible in Alerts Analysis. I can look at events, which are available in the Events tool. All of my tags, tagging summaries, metadata if that's used within your portfolio, scores, which are part of alerts, scores version 2, which is the newer version, which will have any new scores circa 2020. The weather forecast, and then of course historical weather data. If you're looking at device data and you want to see what was happening on that day in the past, you can look there. Again, your devices won't have data in the future, so the weather forecast won't work with you there. So if I click so I select data that is not compatible with one another, it will not return any data. So I like to start at the top and just select a few things at a time. In this case, I want to see all my site names and say their location. I can hit filter data here. I can also hit refresh data and it will show everything that I have selected here. Depending on how much data, how many data points I've selected is how long it will take to load. You can load quite a bit of data and it can take several hours to load if you say wanted to look at all your device data for the last year. So we can let it load here, or if it's taking too long, you don't think it's a successful query, you can hit the browser refresh button. So you can see that my data has loaded here and I have 5 sites. In this case, I just want to look at one site. So I'm going to go ahead and filter by this site by selecting the filter by button. I can filter by items that are not in my query. So if I want to filter by the type of site, I can filter there without having to look at the data and selecting the radio button to have that data point display. So again, I'll select each data point I want to display and then filter by any other data points. So in this case, I don't really want to filter by site type, so I'll go ahead and clear that filter, but I do want to filter to the site. In the wildcards, I can do a % here, and I just want to look at the Denver site. So I do % before, the % after, and then I can filter, and I can see that we just have the Denver site here, but maybe I didn't know what I wanted to type in here. I could look for a list as well, and it will show me all of those items within there. For some of the other lists, say for all your device names, it will take a minute for this drop down to populate, but it will populate, and then you can just select one or more items that you want to see there. And I just want to see that one. Great. And I'm not really interested in the location, but I want to look at that site name. Not necessarily the gateway, but I want to look at my device details. I want to know what devices I have. So I'm just going to select the device name there, and I'm going to filter by that. Great, and you can see I unchecked those location details and they don't show up anymore, but I can see all 759 of my devices on this site. So that's great. Now I want a little more detail. So all that data, the interval data, lives here under my sensor. So I also want to look at the details of my sensor, and I want to again look at the name and then the unit of measure. That's pretty important to me, in the property value and when it was last updated. So this is going to be a pretty big, I'm going to get these 4 additional data points by checking these radio boxes, not the text. Clicking the text won't do anything, but clicking these radio buttons, I'm going to get these 4 additional pieces of data on all 759 records. So this is going to take a minute, but I'm going to filter and wait for that to load. Great, so I think this is a pretty good query. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the name up here of last readings maybe last device readings, and save it. Great. And now if I make any additional changes, say I wanted to, get the driver class name as well, I could then save this query if I wanted to add that additional information. And if I want to see that additional information again, I'll have to click the filter data or the refresh data. And if this query is great and someone else wants to see it, I can share it with them. I can export it to an XLS or CSV, and you can also create an API request. So this will give you a URL that will allow you to access this specific data for all your scripting or data visualization needs. So it's great on the sensors, so I can unselect all of that data, and we can look at some different data. Say alerts, if you wanted to see all the module names. And it's just gonna look at the alerts that happened yesterday. So that's not gonna be enough data for me, so I'm gonna go ahead and look at anything in the last 100 days. So I'm gonna go ahead and filter that data. And if I don't have any alerts, it won't return any data. So we'll see, yep, I don't have any alerts, but it did show me that I have these 4 modules in my portfolio on this site. I can do different date ranges here, and I cannot clear this filter. This date range is specifically for the alerts and will come with any alerts. So now we might want to look at some events, and I just want to look at my event names, and I only want to look at ones with resolved dates. So let's see if this returns what I'm looking for. Oh, I don't have any event resolved dates. I wonder what status they're in. All right, click status. Great. We're waiting on a third party, and quite a few have just been submitted and haven't been opened or put into action yet. I can also look to see if there are any tasks or comments within those same items. And for the comments, I want to know when it was posted and who was by and what they said. So I'm going to click the top radio button and it'll select all of the radio buttons within it. Great, so quite a few comments there. You can see for each comment, there's, 1, 2, 3, 4 comments on this one event. So there's a new line for each comment there. Again, that wasn't the query I necessarily wanted, so we can stop looking at event data, click that button, hide that, and we can look at scores. So scores v2 is where your new scores data is in. So you can see the numerator and denominator that are making up your 0 to 100 score. You can look at the score date. Again, you have to filter by a date range there. We can also look at the corresponding weather forecast, not that there's future necessarily device information, but we can look at the weather history to see what was happening, the weather condition for that same time period as, say, some of my device data postings. So that's a quick overview of DataViews. It's a very powerful tool. You cannot edit any data here. So there's no concern with you running as many queries as you like, clicking all these buttons. If it's not a valid query because I say looked for a sensor name without selecting the respective device, it will just return no data. So again, I'd start at the top and select something, and if something doesn't return, you can just unselect those, maybe select something further up the line and see if that will fix your query. Again, didn't return anything, probably because we have some other selections that aren't compatible. So I hope that this was useful. Thank you for your time today, and I hope this helps you switch it up.